Good morning, everyone. You are welcome to the Distinction webinar series. And today we are going to talk about designing learning in the age of AI with a very special guest with us. I'm Faiz Bashir, the CEO and co-founder of FlexiSurf. And before I introduce our special guest, I would like to introduce the subject of today. AI is no longer a future consideration in education. It is already shaping how knowledge is created, accessed, and assessed. Recent global studies indicate that over 60% of university students are already using generative AI tools for learning and related activities, often without formal guidance from their institutions. At the same time, surveys of educators show that while more than 70% believe AI will significantly change teaching and assessment, fewer than half feel confident about how to redesign learning responsibly in response. This gap is where today's conversation sits. History shows us that technology adoption in education often moves faster than pedagogical redesign. Reports from UNESCO and the OECD consistently highlight that when technology is introduced without intentional learning design, it rarely improves learning outcomes and can even widen gaps in equity, engagement, and assessment integrity. So the central question is not whether AI belongs in education. That question has already been answered by reality. The real question is this: how do we design learning that remains human, meaningful, ethical, and effective in an AI driven world? Joining me today for this important discussion is Dr. Henry Ogundolire, the Director of Learning Innovation at Lagos Business School, where he works at the intersection of learning science, institution strategy, digital transformation, and responsible AI adoption. His work spans instructional design, digital learning, gamification, immersive learning, and policy-informed approaches to education. What makes Henry's perspective especially valuable is the breadth of his experience. He has worked across higher education, corporate learning, national education initiatives, and large-scale digital learning systems. This means his insights are not theoretical or tool-driven. They are grounded in what actually works across diverse learners, institutions, and real-world constraints. I first worked with Dr. Henry during the development of Django Kids, which I'll talk more about during the course of our conversation, a learning platform that was focused for basic education. From that point on, including our work on national training initiatives at UBEC and so on, Dr. Henry brings a rare ability to connect technology with learning design in a way that always centers the learners. You are highly welcome, Doctor.
Yeah,
It's
thank you
a
so
pleasure
much.
to have you today.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Faiz, for having me on the invitation. Thank you so much. Faiz, you are muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the format of our webinar today is Doctor will give us about 15 minutes keynote introducing us to this subject and its importance, sharing his experience in this field, and then we'll continue with the conversation. Doctor, you are welcome.
All right, thank you so much, Faiz, for the invitation. I'm really, really excited um, on things that we're going to be discussing this morning. So, if you just allow me, I have one or two slides to share just to give us an idea of what I'm going to be talking about. Faiz has said that I have 15 minutes for this particular section. So if you allow me to share my screen, I will just go ahead and share. I have one, yeah, okay. Can you see my screen now? So let me know if you can see my screen. Um, all right, I guess you
Yeah,
can. Oh, all right, thank you so much. So what we're going to be discussing for the next 15 minutes, more like a keynote address, is designing learning in the age of AI. That is the focus of the webinar. So I'm just going to move straight to the conversation. Just like Faiz has noted, I'm currently the Director of Learning Innovation at Lagos Business School, and I have, across board 16 years experience in designing learning. All right, so the objective for this 15 minutes is I want to really, really want us to focus on acquiring new paradigm shifts. It's not only learners that must change their behaviors. Teachers, educators too must also have to change their behavior. So, and this behavior cut across what I call cash. This is a very popular framework out there. And previously it's usually CAS, but now H has been added to it. So it's cash. That's cash. AK means knowledge. A means attitude. The X means skill. Then of course the H there is habit. So our behavior will cut across these four areas, as we move in the age of AI. So we must have a change of mindset. We must have a new paradigm shift in our mind as we go through this section. All right, so I'm very sure you are familiar with this. Some of you must have seen this picture before. It's we usually put the cart before the horse, right? Technology is driving pedagogy, right? When actually it should be pedagogy driving technology, right? So this is how it should be. This is the correct order, not this one. So the correct order is this. So if you want to bring that into AI, we can say, okay, so the correct order should be AI as one of the technologies, then of course human driving AI. So what this means is uh, as we speak now, AI lacks direction unless we give him direction, right? It lacks context unless we give it that context. Then of course it also lacks biological empathy. Physical empathy, that can be derived from the interaction we have with AI, but biologically it does not have that particular empathy. Of course, it lacks the knowledge of when things happen. So I must say at this point that teaching learning has become much more difficult in the age of AI. It has not been easy. In those days when web was launched in 1994, we usually say, oh, now we now have web, we now have access to so many information. In those days, in the days of early 80s, early 70s, when people want to do anything research, they go to a library and they have access to just only one document, and that forms the source of that knowledge they're going to be speaking about, right? But now, when web was released in 1994, everybody say, yeah, now we now have access to so many informations, and that's the problem because now we have so many informations. How do we know which one is correct? How do you know which one to incorporate into what we want to teach our learners or what we want to teach our participants? So that's where the problem is. Now, in the age of AI, the problem has been compounded because now we now have mirage of so many information, so many knowledge. Now, how do we bring all of this into into something that will eventually drive learning. So this is the order actually, not this particular one, not AI driving human, right? Okay. So now the main problem actually, what we are fighting now is how do we preserve human agency and how do we adapt now that we're in the age of AI? So preservation and adaptation becomes very, very important in the age of AI. Otherwise, like we usually say, we'll be left behind. Okay. And so I'm sure you have seen this. If you have not seen, you probably have read it. This Air France flight 447 June 1st, 2009, when this particular airplane crashed. Okay. And what happened is that the pitot 2 sensor failed. And the reason why it failed is because all along, the pilots, because of automation, because of so many things that have been built into the airplane, now they feel the feel of flying the plane. And because of that, when that particular sensor failed, it was very difficult for them to be able to switch between the automation and manual control. So it's not the problem actually is not the automation, and the problem actually is not the manual control of the entire situation. The problem is how do we bridge this gap? How do we the control has been lost? How do we ensure that the gap is bridged? That's what we call human agency. Okay. And somebody is writing on my screen. All right. Okay. All right. So what we should begin to focus our attention now is how do we bridge this gap, right? How do we bridge the gap? If you look at the picture on the screen, I have two sets of individuals. One that is being powered by AI, and the other one that is AI dependent, right? So he's not just doing anything, he's just allowing AI to do everything for him, right? And this other one is control is in charge, even though he's using all of those two, but he's in charge. He's the one determining where to go, what to do, how to do it better. So he's actually in charge. And that's why this picture is very, very important. So this agency gap, the way we close it is to leverage AI and make it work and make it do what we want it to do. Okay, all right. So in 2023, I wrote a piece on LinkedIn, and it's about knowledge as a service versus learning as a service. So I have the link there. If it's possible, it's something that you can just read up like that. So the idea is that now that we're in the age of AI, knowledge is no longer the service we are rendering to people. You know, in those days, we used to say sage on the stage, and sometimes again, they move it to a guy by the side. Now, in the age of AI, it should be somebody that is mining the entire process, not actually a guy by the side anymore. So knowledge is no longer the service that we render because now we have access to knowledge everywhere, right? But what we render actually is learning. And of course, I've also defined it that learning is the most fundamental need of human, not actually what Abraham Maslow said in his hierarchy of needs. Of course, we know that physical needs, all of those things are very important, but most fundamentally, what is important is learning, and learning is actually the value of education. All right, so the North Star of education is actually learning, as I've said. And, you know, in a general way of looking at it, if you look at it, if you want to start creating any learning, what we normally do is we start with thinking, and our thinking is influenced by our curriculum, is influenced by our policy. Of course, user profile is also part of the element that will go into our thinking. And from our thinking, once we have an idea of what we're thinking about, then we move into preparation, and that's where we create all the learning content, learning objective, and all of those things. Then from there to delivery, and from there to feedback, then of course, it leads to learning, then it leads to application and integration. So all of these are very important that we need to pay attention to. Now, when we talk about AI, the other day we're having conversation with Olumide. Olumide happens to be the director of Google in West Africa. So we're having conversation with him in Lagos Business School. And one thing that he said that our competition is not actually AI. Our competition is those that will leverage AI to do their job. That's our competitor, right? So it's all about, in fact, he even mentioned that as at that time in 2025, maybe it was around August or September, he said that currently Google, the programming aspect of Google is done is they use AI to do 40% of their programming work. So if Google is using 40%, is using AI to do the 40% of their programming work, I'm very sure by the end of the year it will probably have moved to like 80%, like that. So we are no longer our competitor is no longer with AI, but it's with those people that would definitely use AI to do their job. So I'm very sure we're familiar with this. Now, I don't want to talk about this picture, but maybe in our conversation I can talk about it later. Now, in all my delivery, in all my teaching classes in AI at Lagos Business School and different forums that I have opportunity to talk about AI, I keep asking people, what is the meaning? What is the definition of AI? So people keep giving me what AI can do and all of those things like that. But in actual sense, what AI is simulation and augmentation. Now, I usually say simulation, but now that we are in the age of agentic AI, I noticed that it's no longer about simulation, but now it's about augmentation. So AI is about simulation and augmentation of human intelligence, and that's what it's all about. And it cut across learning, reasoning, perception, natural language processing, problem solving, creating and generating. So all of these are things that we do normally. And the reason why people feel apprehensive about using AI is because they feel like they are losing control. Educators feel like, now that things I used to do, now that AI has come, it's like AI is taking what I used to do. So we're losing control. It feels like we're losing control, but actually we're not losing control. Just that we have to redefine what we call control. We have to redefine what we call learning. All right. So as long as whatever we're doing is repetitive, it has patterns, is observable, is learnable, I'm very sure AI can fix all of that for us. Okay. So I would delay. So how does the future look like? I think I have less than 5 minutes. How does the future look like? The future looks like this, actually. We have the first group of people. They are taken by fear of AI taking their job, right? And so say, let's delete this AI. A lot of conversations are going on out there. Say, no, this AI, let's delete it and stuff like that. Okay. But these other people by my right hand side, they say, okay, why don't we collaborate with AI like that? So, and people that have collaborated with AI, they've seen a lot of potential that AI can actually bring. So, so the way it should be is that the people in this other side, what should be is that they should embrace continuous learning, right? And the people on the other side, what should be is that they should focus on creativity, empathy, and strategy. Okay, so because of our time, now, if you can think of one particular idea that somebody has given to you, maybe in the last 20 minutes, or in the last 2 years, or in the last 3 years, that has actually influenced the way you think. Now, you notice that this is what actually happened. What actually happened is that you are one-on-one with that person. So, and whatever that was discussed in that particular interaction died in the room. It was not captured, just between you and that person. And because it died in the room, and because it wasn't captured, then we can't scale it. And that brings me into this particular study that was done by Benjamin. I'm very sure we know Benjamin Blue. For some of us that are used to creating learning objectives, we know cognitive. We know that he's the one that created that cognitive domain, affective domain, and psychomotor. So he came up with this. This particular study is one of the interesting parts of the work. He called it two sigma problem. And what he found is that we have three categories of students. So 1 to 30, 1 to 30, 1 to 1. So the conventional, the mastery learning, and the one. And he found out that the coaching one, the 1-to-1, is way, way, way better than the 1-to-many, right? But the problem now is how can we scale it? Or we have like 5,000 employees, we have like 5,000 students. So how do we get 5,000 tutors that will sit one-on-one with this particular people to give them what we call deep coaching? I know business schools have been conversing for deep coaching, for a very long time. So, but now, let's not forget that this is where we are coming from. The education actually started from 1-to-1. That's where it started from. The likes of what is his name now? Socrates had a student, Plato, and one-on-one interaction, one-on-one conversation. And so that's where it started from. But the problem is, okay, how do we educate everybody? So the concept of 1-to-many came up. So what we're currently doing now for for like centuries, we're still on one-to-one, right? But that has changed. That has shifted. So we are moving back to where we started from. And the only thing that can do that is when we leverage AI. All right, so because of my time, so how do we now design learning in the age of AI? In other conversations that we're going to have in the course of the webinar, we're going to be having some other conversations. So, but I want you to have it at the back of your mind, soup analogy. I know everybody would like to, we all eat soup. I've not seen any human being that does not eat soup, right? So I'm going to be using human soup analogy to explain how to design learning, especially in the age of AI. So Faiz, I don't know if I still have, I don't know how many minutes I have for my 15 minutes. I don't want to go beyond 15 minutes.
Yeah, I can round up in 2 to 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. So we know whenever we want to cook soup, what we normally do is, right, we know the type of soup that we want to prepare. Not we don't start with the ingredients, we start with the type of soup. So most of the time, and I've seen that across different different angles, different organizations, people do not start with the learning objectives. People do not start with the learning outcomes. What do they want to achieve? And that's the type of soup. If you want to prepare soup, you don't just go to the market and start buying ingredients. What do? You go to the market based on the type of soup that you want to prepare. And so what that means is that we need to identify the direction, the outcome. You know, there was this story that I read about Abraham Einstein. I mean, what is it? That great scientist now. What is his name now? Can't
But
remember. Abbott, yes. Abbott was traveling in a train, and the thing that normally happens is that the people that want to punch the card, they will come and say, okay, let's punch this card, show your card, show your ticket. So they go to Abbott and they go to Easton and they say, please, Prof, we know that you have something, so show us your ticket. And the guy says, sorry, I can't find my ticket. And oh, we know you praise. We know you are credible. You have integrity. There's no way you could have gotten into this particular train without the ticket. So you have ticket with you. So just go ahead. So the guy just overlooked that and went ahead with the normal business. So he just looked back and he saw Aston again, still searching for his ticket. And he came and said, Prof, we know that you have at least a ticket, right? So don't worry about that. Aston said, it's not about the ticket. The ticket is about where I'm going, actually, the direction of my journey is on that ticket. So if I don't see that ticket, I can't know, I don't know where I'm going. So what I'm saying fundamentally is we must know where we're going by coming up with learning objectives. So after we have done that, that's when we start looking for the ingredient we're going to use to prepare the soup. Then we determine the quantities that will go into the soup. Then we begin to add ingredients. And once we have added the ingredients, we wait a little bit, right, to simmer. We wait a little bit. Then sometimes we go back there to mix and marinate and mix all of those things together. Then after that, we wait for the eating process to take place. And of course, we start testing. Then we have the feedback. Finally, we say, oh, yes, this has taken place. So this is what is going to shape my conversation on how to design learning, especially in the age of AI. So thank you.
thank you for this very good analogy. You want me to prepare soup after this webinar?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure to have you once again. And to start off the discussion, I recall, our first meeting was around 2019. It
19,
was
yeah.
there about just before COVID. And we're working on this project to build video content, micro-learning, animated video for the basic education. I think we built almost 700 videos, which took us 2 years or more, and so on. And you were the expert in the room, and it was quite successful, which coincidentally COVID happened, and we were able to provide those videos free on YouTube for for people to learn while we were on lockdown. But based on your experience prior to COVID and before AI became mainstream, when you
Mm.
look at today's AI-driven education conversations, what
Mm.
genuinely feels new to you and what feels like familiar learning design challenges resurfacing in a new form?
Okay. All right, thank you, Faiz. I remember that experience. The experience is still fresh in my memory. I remember that um, during that particular project, I think I was on my way to Ibadan at the time. So I stumbled on a particular article. I remember that I posted the article on our WhatsApp group at that time for that project. I don't know. I remember that there was this particular article that talks about AI coming into the space of instructional design. And I remember that there was a question that I sent alongside with that document that says, what's going to be our next job if AI takes up our job? All the instructional designer on this project, what are we going to be doing? I remember that I sent that article, and boom, 2020 or 2022, that's like 3 years after November, ChatGPT was launched. All right, at least publicly, because before that time, they have been using AI. So, when we talk about designing learning in the age of AI, there's this palpable sense of urgency in the air, right? Almost like the ground is shifting under our feet, right? That's the sense. But in a lot of ways, it is actually a lot of things are shifting. But as someone who has lived through a few of these technological revolutions, I remember, especially in education, when we're still creating e-learning with Flash, with Micromedia Flash. You remember, Faiz, Micromedia Flash, we have to do all the action scripts and all of those things to make it interactive. But when Articulate launch the first tool that can help us to rapidly generate e-learning content. We're like, whoa, it is not easy. But I feel like I'm starting a really interesting spot right now, and it feels brand new, but also strangely familiar. So what is familiar is the core work of teaching and learning. That is familiar. That cut across every aspect. But we're still trying to solve the same puzzles that we were trying to solve 20 years ago, right? So, and the questions are, how do we actually spark curiosity, when learners are learning? So how do we give meaningful feedback without burning out? So how do we get students to stop just consuming and start creating knowledge like that? So for me, what is actually new is the fact that, of course, we remember that silver bullet syndrome, where we usually think of one magic tool like this will be able to solve all the problems. So that is actually familiar. But what is new is the fact that agency has been democratized. There's this democratization of agency. Previously, what we normally use tech for is to get access to content, give us connectivity and stuff like that. But where we are now, what is new actually is the fact that we now have cognitive partnership. So it's the thinking is no longer happening in the human brain alone. It's not happening together with another entity, right? That can help us to accelerate whatever it is that we want to do. So that for me is actually new. But the familiar ground is the fact that we're still looking for all of that tools, one tool that will solve all the problems, but there's no other tool that will solve all the problems. So that is what is
Mm.
familiar. That is what is new. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Based on follow up on what you've just explained and based on your experience on you work at the intersection of learning science, institutional leadership, and digital innovation. So
Yeah.
what's combining all this experience? What convinces you, or what's the insight that technology alone cannot solve the problem of education?
Hmm. If I look at, like when I started that conversation the other time, I mean the presentation, I made mention that technology is a tool, right? is a tool, and we must look at it from that angle, even though we have a lot of conversation and it just concluded World Economic Forum that they're going to release 1 millions or 1 billions humanoids that will work. But even with that, even with that, we want to be in control, right? So technology is a tool. And if we use it like that, if you look at it from that perspective, I think it was created by humans, right? And so just like looking at the days of manual car, you know, it's also a type of technology. Now we move to automatic is also a type of technology. Now we are in the age of self-driving cars. I don't know what will come up after that, right? But what is so fundamental is that we must be in control of that technology. I had a session with some business leaders 2 weeks ago, and I was saying that we mustn't, whatever it is that we cannot control will not do us any good. So we must be able to look at it from that perspective, or the fact that we need to have control over it. Technology itself cannot do what we want it to do, except we set that. But even in the age of agentic AI, you notice that even for that agentic AI to be able to do whatever it's expected to do, we still have to set that high level goal. So that high level goal must be set for it to do. Then it goes ahead to come up with different steps to now achieve that particular goal. But the fact that we are in control. So technology, if we control it very well, will serve our need and will make us to do things better and to accelerate that process of learning better.
Okay. So, there are some realities on ground, and when new things come, sometimes the objective or how people, the inventors plan it is one way, and then users start using it in
The
their
other way.
own way, which
Yeah.
shapes the future. I recall one very good example I always think about is using the art symbol on social media. Many of us here, especially the younger ones, maybe you didn't know that that feature didn't exist. It was the users that were just putting art and put someone's name. So it didn't have like automatically tag and some people. So eventually Twitter made it a feature and so on. So the same thing with AI now, and recent studies shows that more than half of students already use generative AI for learning tasks, often without institutional guidance. And there's even challenge now on how they use it to do assignments and so on. There's this popular video on social media. I don't know if some of you have come across it, where professors in the lecture room were banging the table
We're
and
back.
shouting at
Yeah,
students not
correct.
to. So, but this is the reality, and I don't think that we can stop that from happening. From a learning design perspective, what does this reality demand of educators right now?
That's a that's a very good, interesting question, actually. So now that we have a tool, a technology that can simply do everything that we do as educators. So what do I now do? Or because that's a question, what do I now do? Now, the fact remains that now the technology can do everything, can do everything that we usually do. But what that technology has come to reveal to us, especially now AI, what AI has revealed to us as, could it be that what we ought to be doing, what we have been doing that we say is what we say is what we ought to be doing, right, as educators? Could it be that AI just hold up a mirror and to just amplify it to say, oh, that's not what you're supposed to be doing. No, you are more than that. You're not supposed to be generating knowledge. You're not supposed to be, especially when we look at assessments. We're not supposed to be looking at what. So I think our focus should be on the how and the why. Most of the time, we, as teachers, as educators, we always want to keep things. We always want to keep the reason why we're doing this. Now, and because we have kept it, right? Students or participants will just go ahead and just use anything that will enable them to be very, very fast and very, very quick to get things done. Similar like generating quizzes and answer to quizzes, and they get those things done more quicker. So, but if you look at, even if they have generated it, you want to pay attention to how was it generated, and you also want to pay attention to the why. So I think the question of what is no longer what we should be paying attention. Is a question of how, is a question of why, right? So if you have used AI to do one of the things that it's required of you to do, maybe to write essay or to do the old things that we normally do, right, as students, now we should move that to another level. And the next level is that how did you arrive at this point? That's the how part of it. The process is more important than the what now. Then the second thing is that why? Because the next thing is if you have understood the how, you have gotten the how from the students, the student that has come with a AI generated paper. And if the student has not actually read through the entire thing, does not have any skin in the game, then it becomes a problem. So once you move away from the process, you now move to another level where we call why. So why did you put this one here? Why did you do something like this? So I think that question is what is most important now. Is not actually the question of what. The what has been taken away by AI. Now the what AI cannot take away is the how, and that is when we say let's do more of contextual teaching, let's do more of contextual learning like that, then of course you're not talking about the rationale behind what the students are doing. So the two questions that must be on our minds each time we are designing learning, especially in the age of AI, is the question of how, which speaks to the process, and the question of why.
Yeah, thank you for that. If I understand correctly, it means teachers and educators need to start redesigning how maybe they assess students and not
Sure.
focusing on how how they whether they used AI and so on, but what's the process? Do you
Yeah,
understand? Does that help
yeah,
you? To give
yeah,
a good analogy is like the calculator, right?
yeah,
Maybe saying students, no, no one should use calculator, go back to four-figure table and something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, Thank you for that. And moving on, there's always very important role when these new technologies come for by the institutions and so on, where they are supposed to also help in shaping the process, helping the teachers and students. From your own experience, where do you think the institutions are already on track, or are they kind of slow? Where do you think they should come in and help shape this journey so that we get it right?
Okay, so thank you so much, Faiz, for that question. So if I want to approach that question, I would say that firstly, a lot of educators are still afraid of using AI. They're not even, some might say, let's not use it. Some don't even know the potential, what it can do, things that it can free them from. There's so many things we carry as educators that has not actually allowed us to do the main job that we're supposed to be doing. So first and foremost, we need to come to a level where we are comfortable using technology. I know it's no longer, I know because it's new anyway. When Google was launched then we now, and people say, I don't use Google, don't use Google, don't. But now Google has become part of, even as we speak, we still do not have strategies and policies in place on how to use even Google well. And so it is that failure has also been expanded, has moved into the era of AI. So the first thing we need to do is that we need to remove that fear. It has come to stay. It's not going to go away. In fact, it will become better. And if you don't catch up with the current version of AI, what now happens if you now move to AGI, for instance, which the race has actually started? Of course, that started with agentic AI. So when we now move into AGI, or we move to super intelligence, like that. So what are we now going to be doing? So the things we need to be doing as educators is to begin to incorporate some of these things into the way we teach, into the way we allow our students to learn. And our focus should be on the experience. When I talk about, we are big on experience, especially in Lego Business School. We're big on experience. We always want to ensure that what will come out at the end of the day when you go through our learning process is that kind experience that it will give you that feel that you're actually there. What experience means is being there, being available when that particular event happens. So what we need to begin to focus on is to focus on the experience, and we come up with different policies on how to use it in the classroom. We have the national policy, we have the global policy, like that. But when we pick all of these policies, we now have to contextualize them and distill things that will help us to use some of these AI in the classroom. Otherwise, we just keep talking about it and nothing will happen. And just one a very big example that I remember. I remember there was this particular news that came up when ChatGPT was launched in 2022. That professors in Harvard, in Wharton University, that same particular November, they started using it. So if those that gave us this opportunity are using AI to advance, to accelerate teaching and learning, so why won't we use it, here in Africa? So what we just need to do is let's learn how to use it, because if you don't know how to use it, there's no way we can design policies around it. But first, we have to learn how to use it, and how to use it must come from not from the fact that we're fear of it, but the fact that we are comfortable using AI and forming partnership or cognitive partnership with AI. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. To add to that, University of uh, Oxford University here in the UK, I think some months back have officially given access to ChatGPT for
Yeah,
education to all
yeah,
staff and students. So
yeah,
meaning that
yeah.
AI is here to stay.
In fact, we are
Um,
working on it in Legal Business School now in Panatati University to give access to everybody in the school,
mm,
students, staff, just like what happened in Wharton University. That they are is in fact the dean of Wharton Business School said that other business schools are running away from AI, but they are running towards it.
mm. Oh, sorry, Usman, can you stop the screen share? Okay, while this is ongoing, uh, I like the way Lagos Business School is always at the forefront of being innovative and so on. And you also mentioned about focusing on experience, learning experience, and not this is not commercial, but I would like to. I'm a testimony. I struggled a lot back then looking for the right training and things like that. And sometimes I'll be thinking, this trainer, should we switch so that I can train him? But immediately I experienced Lagos Business School. It was really different, and I never went back till today. It's one of our favorite, even at FlexiSurf and Distinction. So kudos to the Lagos Business School. And so building on that too, and focusing on the topic of today, human-centered learning.
Mm,
I know you've already touched part of this in your keynote today
yeah.
and so on. But in reality, now that AI is able to generate all this content, quizzes, and assessment and things like that, what what is really human-centered learning? How does human-centered learning design look like in an AI-enabled learning environment?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. When I actually prefer human-focused learning to human-centered learning. You know, I know human-centered learning, gave back to design thinking and all of that. So, and we're saying, let humans be at the center of the whole thing, and everything is gravitating towards human, like that, like that, like that. But all other elements are still very, very important in human-centered learning. But when we talk about human-focused learning, we're actually saying that everything that we're using, the essence of that is humans, right? So there's this framework that was created in 1995, and that was by if I remember now, Paris and Turner in 1995. They came up with this framework, and it's called CCs of motivation, right? So they talked about choice, right? So when we talk about the humans, one of the things that makes us human is the fact that we can choose. We have that autonomy to choose from whatever it is that we want to, based on the experience that we want to enjoy. So in designing learning in the age of AI, and we want to make it human-centered and want to make it human focus, we have to pay attention to the opportunity we are creating for learners to choose from varieties of content based on the value, based on the relevance, and based on the experience that they want to enjoy. So we should be able to have that enough or adequate learning resources from which learners can pick from, and we should give them that opportunity to be able to. So when we do that, and of course AI can give us that opportunity a lot now. So we can with AI we cannot create so many types of different learning formats for content. We have them now. We can do that with AI. So which we give that opportunity, we give learners opportunity to be able to choose from whatever it is that they want to choose from, that will give them that experience that they are looking for. So that's the first thing they talk about in the framework. Then the second thing they talk about in the framework is the fact that it must be challenging enough. When things are easy, learning will not take place. And when teaching learning process or content is difficult, then learning will not still take place. It must be balanced. It must be in between. It must be challenging enough to make them to be curious. And to be able to do that is very simple. Let's just, even if it is to query ChatGPT, for instance, and so say as educators, okay, please, I'm designing learning for this set of people because we have access to the profile. I'm designing learning for this set of people. So, and I want to create this, create this, create this. So we have to bring them to that level where whatever we give them is challenging enough. That's the second thing they talk about in their framework. The third thing they talk about is control. Am I in charge of the entire learning process? I know even far back before AI came into our space, we usually say that let's allow students to be part of the entire process. Let's allow participants to be part of the entire process. Let's give them control over whatever it is that they are learning. So that's the third thing they talk about. Then, of course, collaboration. Of course, AI has made that easy now. Somebody can be in the US, and it can even be AI agents, that has been created somewhere in the United Kingdom somewhere. And I'm here. I can also create my own agents that will work together, and they can come up with something fantastic. So collaboration will make us human. Then, of course, constructive meaning will make us human. Then finally, consequences. One thing that we're big on in Pan Atlantic University is that we give people freedom to do whatever they are doing, but they should remember that they are responsible for whatever they are doing. So whatever consequences come out of whatever it is that people have done, they are responsible for. They're going to bear the consequences. So we should also bring that into our design of learning to ensure that that particular process is human focused and not just AI focused. So I don't know whether those
Yeah.
that framework will help us to design learning in the age of AI.
Certainly. And yeah, in addition to still around AI
Yeah,
learning and so on, which you have touched in terms of the focus now, instead of asking how do we stop students from using AI, we
of
should
course.
be thinking of the learning design. How should it evolve to ensure assessment still measures thinking and judgment? Just
Yeah.
to, can you buttress more on that in practically, for example, with AI now, have you seen examples where assessments now will help students really learn instead of focusing on why did you use AI, but how do we assess them to help them
Okay.
really learn?
Okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. Now, we have a lot of cases, use cases, especially with some of my faculty members in Lagos Business School, and with some of the things that I've also done. Take for instance, even ethics. That's a professor called Professor Kemi Ethics. So what she does actually is that having asked the students to go and do something like this, of course you can use AI, no problem. Use AI the way you want to use it. Then you come to class to let's discuss for discussion. So it's not longer about what you have done. So go and use AI to do whatever you have done. So, but let's not critique what AI has given to us. So, because if I can get the answer from AI, so why do you have to think through getting the answer? If the answer is A and I can easily get it from AI, why do I have to think through? Why do I have to think through it and keep bothering myself about, okay, where's the answer? Where's the answer? And the answer is A, right? No, the answer has been given to me. Let me find out whether the answer that has been given to me is correct. Let me find out whether the answer has been given to me is justifiable, right? So that inquiry is what is most important now, especially in the age of AI. So you're looking at you're talking about reflection. So if you're using AI to do one particular activity and they have submitted it, so the what you are going to be evaluating is not what they have submitted, is their reflection, is what they do in the entire process. You want to find, like I was saying the other time, that the question of how and the question of why, right? So that inquiry is very, very important when one is assessing any AI generated questions or answers. So the focus should be on the judgment. The focus should be on the reflection. So don't just give students to say, okay, let them go and write essay. Now, if they want to write essay, let them also write essay. Use AI to write the essay, right? Then let's place it side by side with what I've written. And so let's compare. Let's compare. Are there any things that I can pick from what AI has generated and use it to do to augment whatever I've written like that. So that partnership is very, very important. So I don't know whether that
Yeah,
helps. Yeah.
this is really interesting. And coincidentally, I was opportune about 2 weeks back at BET conference in the UK,
Mm.
where I was in a program organized by University College of London, Faculty
Mm.
of Business, and Prof. Anil from that faculty described a new framework he is testing with his students, and he called it flipping the taxonomy of learning. And it's
Yeah.
exactly the way you described it. What he does now, he teaches a business class, so he gives his students AI tool to go and instead of, oh, I come and I'm in front of the classroom, teach them the theories and so on, then we come and do the practical and so on. Now he's flipping it. With AI, he gives them, go and build strategy on this. They go and try it out. When they come to classroom, they can now discuss how did they come about it and
Yeah.
talk about the why and things like that.
Yeah.
So this is quite interesting. Yes.
In fact, just a quick one, just a quick addition to that. In fact, I remember that you know. while I was trying to look at the taxonomy, the students of Benjamin Blue upgraded that initial framework that Benjamin created in 1956. He upgraded in 1999. Now, the 1999 version has something very interesting. The last element there is creating. Now, so if you flip it now, usually we have been talking about lower order thinking, those three, the first three, and the other one is odds, higher order thinking. So if you flip it, so we start from the higher order thinking to lower order thinking. Before AI, you start from lower order thinking to higher order thinking. Now in the age of AI, you start from higher order thinking to lots. I used to call it odds and lots, odds and lots. Start from odds, then go back to lots. Then before AI, you start from lots, then you go to odds. Now in the age of AI, the lot has been handled by AI. So let's start from odds, higher order thinking. Yeah.
Interesting times, and
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how this can really improve learning outcomes for the learners. So as we begin to round up so that we
Mm.
can have, I'm sure there are many educators here that may have some questions. When
Yeah.
you look 5 to 10 years ahead, based on your experience and all the things we've been discussing, what concerns you most if learning design does not remain human focused, as you said, in an AI
Yeah.
world? And on the flip side, what gives you the most hope if we get the design right?
Mm. Now, the biggest concern I have, with if we do not, the bigger concern I have is what I call cognitive atrophy, something like eventually we outsource all that we want to do and give it to AI to do for us. And we just sit back and relax. No. Now, the low level work, we can give it to AI to do, but the high level work, we should do them. So, and if you're going to give the low level work to AI, we need to learn how to leverage AI to do the low level work, right? So the high level work, let's do it ourselves. So that's one of the major concerns I have. But regardless of that, my greatest hope is that we're going back to where we started from. That is one-to-one. So even though we can't do that, we can't make it one-to-one anymore. So personalization at scale is not possible.
Yeah.
So, the problem that Benjamin talked about in 1984 with that research work that he did is that how do we ensure that we have 5,000 teachers teaching 5,000 students. Now, with AI, that is possible. So that's my greatest hope, that now we can now do personalization at scale. We can scale it up. So it's no longer a problem. So if Benjamin Bloom is still, if he was to be alive now, I'm very sure his problem, he will have that sense of the fact that, eventually my problem has been solved. So we're going back to where we started from. So that's my greatest hope. Yeah.
Okay, the final question to make a twist or maybe play the devil's advocate. While we've been saying, yeah, people that use AI their jobs will not be replaced. Those that don't are the ones that will be replaced. But just to give extreme example, Elon Musk, not just in teaching, he is predicting that in the future, even work will be optional because
Yeah.
technology has created so much abundance and work is you just do it if you have the passion and so on. And talking about just the example you gave with AI now, one-to-one tutoring is possible. And I'm already seeing AI agents and what we are even doing a distinction that these things is becoming even the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, said AI
Yeah.
will start having this kind of consciousness, right? And I
Yeah.
like giving this example many times. My 10-year-old child then using ChatGPT to prepare for his common entrance. I was just sitting, and after some time, I heard him, with a sigh of relief. Wow, ChatGPT is kind. And and there are other discussions, even in terms of relationship, and there are people predicting you soon start seeing headlines, people getting married to AI. So we have these
Yeah.
avatars, and they are becoming really good, even in terms of the empathy we are talking about. These AI agents can get to that. So, but with all these things, if you are speaking to an educator now that is listening to you, all these extreme examples and fears, what will your advice, advice will you give them to focus their energy on?
It is a tough question, actually, because it's like we're not ready, we're not there yet. So it is a little bit difficult for us to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. But as long as humans still exist, something is so fundamental about humans, and that is connection, right? I I think far back when I was still in college, that's College of Education, there was this particular teacher I had at that time when I was in my 300 level. So he taught us something, he taught us educational management, comparative study, and stuff like that. And there was this analogy he gave. His analogy between he was teaching efficiency and effectiveness. And this analogy he gave an analogy of two group of soldiers. One group has 100 soldiers, the other group has 100 soldiers, and they have captain for each of the group like that. So the group A went to the battle, won the battle, but lost 99 soldiers, who came back home with one soldier and the captain. The group B went to the same battle, fought that same battle, won that battle, came on with 99 and lost one soldier with the captain. So now he now said the one that came on with 99 is more efficient than the one that came on with one and lost 99. He said that is effectiveness. The other one is efficiency. Now it's that particular concept that's remained with me for ever since he told that story. And the reason why that story resonated with me so much is because of my background. I have military background. I was born and bred in barracks, right? So I have that military background. So when he mentioned that, that just clicked. I can quickly connect to it. Other colleagues we still have that WhatsApp group where we discuss, but they can't even remember. That was the day I just attested. I said, "Do you remember this conversation?" They can't even remember. So I think what we're going to be talking more about will be human connection. When you go to the train, when you go to the airport, you see a lot of people busy with their phones. They're no more connecting. They're no more talking. They're no more interacting with themselves like that. They're busy with doing something else. So whatever they are doing, let's hand it over to AI and let's connect. So it's that connection that is going to be more and more important, especially in the age of AI.
Thank you. This is a powerful connection. If we are taking one thing from today's session, the human connection is very
Yeah.
key. So before we take question and answers, I would like to use this opportunity to just talk about distinction for the next 2 minutes, which is related to the subject of today. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so at distinction, we provide an AI-powered teaching and learning platform that empowers teachers, creators to turn any syllabus into a full course, including notes, videos, flashcards, and quizzes in minutes, and gives every student an AI agent that personalizes their learning. So these all the things we've been talking about. We are trying to do that with distinction, but of course, working with experts like Dr. Henry to ensure that we also make it human focused as we move on. So, like I mentioned, you can use distinction to generate any course in 2 minutes. For teachers or educators that are here today, you can try this out. So far, the feedback has been very positive and is empowering many of the teachers. Let me try this 1 minute video, just a quick overview.
Still juggling PDFs, links, slides, and scattered quiz tools just to deliver one course? With distinction, creating a complete course takes just minutes. Your content comes to life with articles, videos, flashcards, and quizzes built for better engagement. Share it with a link, no extra steps. The learners enroll and start immediately. Already use a module or Blackboard? Distinction supports SCORM and integrates seamlessly with your LMS. Whether you're a tutor, lecturer, or institution, create, share, and teach smarter. Start creating now at distinction.app/courses. Distinction Courses, made for creators, loved by learners.
Thank you. That was a quick overview. And if you want to get started, just visit distinction.app/creators if you're a teacher or lecturer, and you can start immediately, or just scan the QR code on the screen to get started. We also have library of courses already, also on AI that you can explore on the platform to learn prompt engineering and other concepts. We will also, hopefully, I'll be working with Dr. Henry to launch, AI for educators to teach us on how to focus on human as we use this AI as well. Stay tuned on that. And yeah, with that, I think we come to the Q&A session. If you have question, can please raise your hand and unmute to ask your questions.
Hello, trying to get my hand up.
Okay, yeah, J.
Hi, this is Joe.
Yeah, sorry, let J come, then we come back to you, Joel. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Omar. Thanks, Dr. Henry. Yeah, so I followed your discussion and I think it's very interesting. So my question is and this is, using Mr. Omar's language, playing the devil's advocate, right? In your final slide, that's Dr. Henry, you gave us like 9 recipe for creating content. And I saw something, well, although it was very fast, it was like AI enhanced learning, right? But this seems to, in a way, send a different message than the topic of discussion, which is designing learning in the age of AI. So my question is, are these two things separate? Like, for instance, the question is it possible to design learning in today's age without the need to incorporate AI? That's from the educator's point of view. And from this learner's point of view, to dissuade them from using AI. So that's the way I understood the topic of discussion, which in contrast, in the final recipe that you gave, you wrote AI enhanced learning, which means by in essence, there's AI in that learning paradigm. So the question is it possible to design learning today in 2026 without, from the educator's point of view, using AI, and from the learner's point of view, dissuading them from using AI? So that's my question. Are they the same? How can we, juxtapose these two concepts? So let me know if the question is not clear. I can rephrase. Thank you very much.
All right. Jay, can I respond?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Oh, okay. Good question, Jay, right? Good question. Now, the way I will respond to that question is also asking a question. As you are now, is it possible to do anything without using technology? Even this particular conversation that we're having is through a particular technology, right? So the
Yes.
age we are now is the age of technology, the age of AI. So there's nothing practically we can do without using technology. So in that way, if we look at AI, because what AI has come to do is to enter into our cognition, into our brain, and try to simulate what happens there in our brain, right? Reasoning, thinking, learning, all of those things. So that's why it's giving a lot of people a headache. That's now that, are you saying AI is entering into my brain and thinking for me? I can think myself, like that. Now, but if you look at it from from the perspective of augmentation and perspective of the fact that if you do not leverage AI, and you do not teach with AI or do not design with AI, you students that you are training today that will graduate, right? And that are not exposed to AI or they don't even know how to use it, will go into the workspace where they use AI. And so they get there and they feel disconnected. So the question is, what we should be asking, what we should be focusing on now is that how do I collaborate? And that's why it's called AI enhanced learning. How do I collaborate? How do I work with AI? Because that's the age. That's where it's going to get to. There's a particular study that, the other day I had some conversation with HR managers, HR guys from the professional, from the business, from the industry, and they came into Lagos Business School and I had a conversation with them. And one of the things that came out from that conversation was that the HR professionals, they prefer to hire somebody that has high AI skill and less experience than someone that has high experience and low AI skill. So if we are preparing students for the world of AI, the best way, I think it is wise, and also, how do I, what for the better lack of, for lack of words, I would say it's going to be make sense if we design with AI. So in the age of AI, it is not possible not to design with AI or not to design learning with AI. Every other aspect, I know that this conversation is a little bit hot because, and it's only hot in education. Other aspects of life, they are moving, they're already using, they are not, in fact, they're looking for how to make things much, much easier. But for us in education, for us in learning, we are saying, no, we are just doing a lot of things to say, okay, what are we going to do? So what am I going to do? So the conversation is, we need to allow students to use AI because either you like it or not, they're going to use it. And they're going to, it is when we don't teach them how to use it. Of course, I saw one chart here that says, I think it's from Usman that talks about prompt engineering because that's the way to talk to AI. So we have to teach them how to use it. And if we don't teach them how to use it, and if we don't know how to teach them how to use it, so it's a problem. So there's no way we can design learning actually that will be human focused in a way in the age of AI. We are talking about AI age. One of my findings in recent time is AI is becoming an operating system upon which everything will run. And so we need to get that understanding across to our students. And also educators should also pay attention to that. That is becoming an operating system.
Thank you, Doctor. Yeah. So
Thank you very
Joseph,
much.
yeah. Joseph, are you there?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Faiz. And also, I'll thank you for organizing this. We
Okay.
like your
Thank
persistence.
thank you. Sorry, sir. Just to give context, we are here with the director of ICT, Ted Fund. Mr. Joe. So thank you for joining. You have the floor.
Thank you. This is a very intentional effort on your part, and thank you, Mr. Henry. You have you did address one of the things that is a kind of being a disturbance for many of us who are beginning to think that the pathway we are choosing is a lazy pathway, both for teachers and for students. And I'll give one example in context. When, for example, you read Things Fall Apart, the whole pages of Things Fall Apart, and then you go to Blinkist and read Things Fall Apart. Yes, it seems like it summarizes it, it gets the key points, but it misses out on the emotional intelligence. It misses out on the moments that you feel alive, you feel you have participated, you feel the presence, being present kind of for some of the scenes. But most importantly, you miss out on the hard work of that reading. Because taking, for example, if it is 200 pages, going from page 1 to 200 is an experience. And I also like the way you put it. We are missing out on the experience because those experiences come in just not that maybe you're reading Things Fall Apart to take an exam, but that experience you are going to use or you're going to infer in other life situations. And that is part of what we look at and we say, how do we bring back that hard work, even in an AI era? And that is why the part of answering the question of why and answering the question of how did you get here and why these answers is very important. The second thing is also the issue of collaboration. I will want to look forward to learn more from you. We're already learning from Faiz in what he's doing, and that is where collaboration comes in. How do we collaborate to make sure that the platforms we are providing, we provide a platform called Terrace, becomes also a learning experience, a teaching experience, a learning experience for students, a teaching experience for lecturers, and also an experience for administrators in being able to use it to achieve whatever is your goal, either as a student, as a lecturer, as an administrator. So, and one of the things which I think also the private sector can drive is there is need for an advisory board on having intentionality about focus, as you guys put it. What is the focus? We have to be intentional with focus, and that advisory board might or will be very, very important. And all this will be able to help in making sure that, one, we stay focused, not AI for just the sake of AI, as we do say at the age and the starting age of IT, many people pushed to IT just for the sake of IT, but not IT for the sake of the business. So now AI also has to be intentional for the sake of the business which we're using it for, not just are we going into AI just because it's the new trend, but how do we make sure we internalize it with regards to our environment? And most importantly, all these things are meant to leapfrog you. How does it leapfrog us, whether it's teaching in our nursery schools? Faiz did mention that already his child is using AI to prepare for common entrance at that level. So how does it influence us in secondary schools, in tertiary institutions? So when we are able to be intentional about the direction we are going, then we can be able to also bring out measurable milestones and goals, not just having collaborations that at the end of the day, we cannot measure its outcomes and outputs. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sir Joseph. I know just a comment, right? It's not a question, just addition.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you can say something to that and Faiz too. Yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
just by the way, in part of our contribution is that our interventions for this year, we are asking institutions to make use of a percentage to be able to encourage them towards making use of AI to improve their ICT environments, whether it's the teaching environment, ICT infrastructure development, learning. So, and that is intentional in making sure that we make use of emerging technologies to be put in context as we distribute funds, that people have funds available to now see what they can do intentionally and get favorable outcomes that improve their learning environment. So thank you.
Yeah, correct. Just to emphasize the aspect of intentionality, that is very, very important. We cannot overflog that aspect of intentionality. I think a major problem is the fact that we're not intentional about things that we do. Even with AI, even with technology, even with Google, the way I'm an edtech professional, I'm trained to use technology. So I'm trained to look for any new technology coming up, right? And to learn how to use it quickly so that I can train others on how to use it. So that's the way I'm wired like that. So, but most of the time we're not intentional. And because we're not intentional about the way we use technology, that does not allow us to even incorporate it. Think of how we can come up with a particular curriculum that will help people to acquire the same skills. So intentionality is very, very important. And of course, just to also emphasize the how and the why. The how and the why will become the mainstream of what we should be discussing in education going forward.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Director, for this very important contribution in the discussion. And TEDFund has been in the forefront on driving the institutions to utilize technology. I think 2 days ago, there's this research by the British Council. They interviewed me, and one of the questions is the role of the government and so on. And I remember clearly explaining how TED Fund in the recent years, like 3 years or more, have shifted focus on just physical infrastructure to technology. And so far, a lot of achievement have been done. And we look forward to even doing more in the age of AI. And also the likes of NUC, which is already spearheading the AI policy for institutions. Adoption of AI in our institutions are all very commendable, and we look forward to participate in this journey. So we will be rounding up in a few minutes, but I think that Dr. Abdullah has a question as well. Can you proceed? Unmute, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Harry and Mr. Faiz, for the platform. I believe this is the right way to go. My own is just an additional comments for maybe most of us that are now in the field of AI, that one of the major factors that we are having the issue right now is that it's not the use of the AI, but how do we use it? Do we use it for the good or for the bad? Because these are tools that we can tilt them towards the way we want them to respond to us. So for me, I think we should lay more emphasis even with our students, as some of us are here on national assignments in some other countries like Rwanda right now. What we are doing here is to ensure that people that are using those AI, they should just grab just the experience in the brain of what you have first of all. Because if you look at this application like distinctions that we are now using, if the person doesn't have the idea, even with the AI, he may not be able to use it very well. So it is very important that at the lower level in our universities, tertiary institutions and students, even down to the secondary school, they should know these tools, but it will have limitation on how they use them. Limitations here means that, okay, while we are using these tools, we should now organize the tools in such a way that it will be giving us the positive aspect of it while trying to learn the negative aspect of it. By the time someone knows the tool and he knows how to use it very well, then probably you may not have issues in him trying to use the tool. And secondly, the lecturers, that is the tutors, the lecturers, will be at pace. They should now come hand in hand. I think this thing are not hard for us to integrate in most of our websites. All the universities' website through thank you to TechPon, thank you to NUC, we can organize and make sure all these tools are now on our site so that the visibility and the usage will be increased and people will learn how to use it ethically, because that is one of the fundamental factors, as the presenter said, that the ethical factor is what we need to work on very early so that at the tail end, we will not have issues with them. I think these are my comments I want to add for all of us, that we should learn the ethical way of using them. Tools in our hand without these ethics are becoming either distractions or they may become knowledge for us. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. Keep in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. And our last question, I think this is a very important one on the chat, which the chat fund director also mentioned, is AI in the basic education. And the question says, we that are teaching at the basic level of education, secondary school, in bracket, also in the village, how can we use AI to educate our learners?
It's a tough question. Hmm. You know, one of the good things I like about um I like about technology is that it helps us to solve its own problem. The problem technology is creating, we can also use that same technology to solve the problem, right? So I know to use AI, we'll probably need, in the rural area, we'll probably need power, devices and all of those things like that. And if they are not available, there's nothing we can do, right, to make them available, right? Except we now begin to create different booths, like I think it's DSN that is doing something like that, creating different booths and take it to different rural area where they allowed participants or students in that particular area to come into that booth and expose them to that kind of experience that has been required in the curriculum. So while we are waiting for when it's going to become something that we can, just like even electricity now is still not available in every part of the country. So that gap is there. So, but for us as educators, one of the things that I enjoy so much about being a teacher or being an educator is I can move around things. Even if it's not available, I can improvise, that concept improvisation. So we can improvise and come up with what can work in our own area. So when you look at your own area and say, okay, we don't have electricity, we don't have this, we don't have that. So part of the thinking process should be, okay, and I want my students to use AI. So how do I go about it? That's a question, and I'm not going to answer that question in this webinar. I'm going to allow you to think through it, because one of the things that we must not take away from people is that we must not take away that ability to think through situations that they find themselves and find a way to solve that particular problem, having access to different tools and different opportunities. So the way I will go about it is that you have acquired one knowledge or the other. you have learned how to use AI. Maybe you have learned it from different sources, and you know how to prompt it very well. And now I want to allow my students to use this particular tool. So how do I go about it? And that I will allow you to figure out yourself.
Thank you, Doctor. I think the discussion is interesting, and I'm seeing more hands. Let's take hopefully the last one. Benjamin, you can unmute. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much for this, exciting program in the field of artificial intelligence, and it wouldn't have come in a better time than now, especially as portrayed by my director, that TETFund is equally taking a step forward to include, propagation of AI in this our 2026 Tax Support Intervention. Okay, the question I'm raising is this: as we continue in this laudable journey of artificial intelligence, what step are we taking to ensure that user, personal data are actually protected in line with the Nigerian Data Protection Act as enacted in the year 2023? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you so much, Benjamin, for that question. That's steps to protect our data privacy, right? So one thing I know with all types of technology is that there's always an opportunity to install some of these things on premise. So that is general to all types of technology. So the ChatGPT, what they call it, even distinction. So distinction can be installed. I'm very sure that can be done on premise in a way where, okay, I don't want my data to go into the main server. I want the data to remain within the sandbox that has been created for it. So that opportunity is always there. So then of course, because the application, the AI applications, AI software that are being created, they also follow the privacy, what they call it now, the privacy data protection policy. They also follow it in creating some of these applications. Distinction also follow that. So your data will not be out. Your data is kept within the policy like that. So that is also that's also available. Then the other thing we need to do is now, how do we now begin to create our own in-house applications that we can use? How do we train our people to create something that they can use on their own? And that's where distinction comes up, because decision is the application created within the Nigerian space, within African space, that we know that is actually for us, right? We can use it within our space. So then even beyond the distinction, we can begin to say, okay, let's train people on how to create, like, I know DSN is doing something around small language model, XLM. We can begin to create small pockets of models that we can deploy even locally using our own local machine and using the general local network within our organizations that we can deploy on our own local network and use it. And that way the data can be protected. So there's so many ways we can go about it, but those are a few steps that we can follow.
Okay, thank you so much, Bashiru Flezisaf. I would like you to explore more on including, data privacy by design when you're deploying AI.
Yeah.
Once you incorporate it, it becomes automatic, because when you're deploying, the framework will actually remember it for you, because if you don't include it, your program may not run very well. So if you include it in your design, it becomes automatic for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for this important question and observation. Like Dr. Henry has also mentioned, the regulations, the NDPR, for example, this is one of the objectives to ensure there's protection of data and so on, and companies building softwares should be able to meet up with those. And for us at FlexServe, that's very important. We are certified with the NDPC, that's the Nigerian Data Protection Commission, and also the platforms we use, like uh, the cloud platforms. We just got our certification with AWS, where we are certified to be secure and responsible using encryption and all the best practices that needs.
Okay, I think the network is gone.
Yes, it seems Faiz is having network challenges. Let me see.
That's part of the challenge.
Yes, exactly.
No, but even before then, he has actually landed, and they were
Yes.
ready. Yeah. So you can progress with the meeting in his absence.
Yes, we're rounding up, but I believe he's going to come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, back.
Yeah, I got a bit disconnected. So thank you for that. I was just commenting on the importance of responsible AI and the data protection. So it's a pleasure once again to have you, Doctor. Very interesting discussion, very engaging, and we look forward to see how we can use AI responsibly and design AI with the learners in focus. Thank you
Yeah.
all. Have a nice weekend. Thank you,
Thank
Doctor.
you.
Bye.
So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you all.